Good afternoon, you're watching Arirang News, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Kwon Jang-ho, and it's good to have you with us. The dates for the second North Korea-U.S. summit have been announced. It will take place on February 27th to the 28th, just under 3 weeks from today. It was confirmed by President Donald Trump during his State of the Union address. We'll be looking further at the implications of this announcement later in the show. But first, some updates on the ongoing negotiations between Pyongyang and Washington, as well as the other headlines of the day. Devin Whiting is at the news center for us. Devin?
Hi, Jang-ho. North Korea and the U.S. are continuing to prepare for the second summit. In their talks today in Pyongyang, they'll be looking for some common ground to form the basis for a deal later this month. There are also some logistical and other details to sort out for when the leaders are in Vietnam. Park Hee-jun reports.
Day 2 of nuclear talks between North Korea and the U.S. in Pyongyang. The U.S. Special Representative for North Korea, Stephen Biegun, is negotiating with his new North Korean counterpart, Kim Jong-un, the former ambassador to Spain, about what would presumably be in a deal signed at the next summit. They're aiming to define the steps that North Korea needs to take towards denuclearization, for which the U.S. would offer corresponding measures. And that will lay the groundwork for the two leaders' joint statement. The North could dismantle its plutonium and uranium enrichment facilities, including the Yongbyon nuclear complex. And it could also offer to destroy its ICBMs. In return, the U.S. could offer to set up a joint liaison office in Pyongyang, declare an end to the Korean War, and provide humanitarian assistance. But the key would be the removal of economic sanctions. The negotiators are also likely finalizing the venue for the Kim-Trump summit. President Trump has announced the summit's date and general location, Vietnam, but he did not elaborate on whether it will be in the city of Hanoi or Da Nang. And because there's less than 3 weeks to go until the leaders meet, the two sides are also likely sorting out the general logistics. It's unclear how long Biegun will stay in Pyongyang. The negotiations have already been extended from the 1 day announced by the State Department. And because it's key to come up with a clear set of agreements to ensure a successful meeting, the discussions could even continue into the weekend. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is hopeful that North Korea will dismantle its nuclear weapons program as promised. In an interview with Fox Business on Wednesday, Pompeo said Washington is confident that Kim Jong-un will fulfill the commitment he made at the landmark Singapore summit last June. The top U.S. diplomat also explained that tough economic sanctions on the regime have led North Korea to seek a different course. He added that a better and brighter future awaits the North once it fulfills its commitments towards establishing stability and peace on the Korean peninsula. South Korean Prime Minister Lee Nak-yeon has expressed hope of progress in the summit towards peace and denuclearization. At a weekly cabinet meeting on Thursday, Prime Minister Lee said the summit could yield concrete results, considering that the two sides have been steadily holding working-level discussions. The PM said that for many Koreans, the past and the future coexist in their minds, with the scars of war on one side and expectations of peace and prosperity on the other. He said one thing is clear, that Koreans should look to the future and never allow the past to hinder any progress. Samsung Electronics is not only the world's biggest seller of semiconductors, but it's also the biggest buyer because its IT products need non-memory chips from other suppliers. The data show last year this one company bought almost a tenth of all the chips sold in the world. Our Ko Ryun-hee has this report.
South Korean tech giant Samsung Electronics was the world's biggest buyer of semiconductors last year, highlighting its presence in the demand side of the chip market as well. According to global market research firm Gartner, Samsung purchased around $43.4 billion worth of semiconductors in 2018. The amount marks an increase of 7.5% from the previous year, grabbing a 9.1% share of all global semiconductor sales. Analysts attribute the rise to Samsung's status as one of the world's biggest producer of IT products, such as smartphones, which require many non-memory chip components. Samsung needs to source its non-memory semiconductor parts from external suppliers because the firm is mainly focused on producing memory chips like DRAM. Separate data provided by research from Trendforce shows that Samsung grabbed the top spot in the smartphone market, with the 18.6% of the global market share in the fourth quarter of 2018. To maintain their dominance in smartphones, while improving its self-sufficiency rate in components, Samsung announced last month that it will focus on nurturing its non-memory chip business as part of the company's new growth engine. Meanwhile, other companies on the list of top global semiconductor buyers include Silicon Valley giant Apple and Chinese tech firm Huawei. The report pointed out that the Huawei's purchase of chips soared more than 45% on-year in 2018. In fact, 4 among the top 10 lists were Chinese companies, signaling growing competition in the smartphone and electronics industry for the year 2019. Korea-U.S. Arirang News.
Data from the UK suggests the world could be in the middle of the warmest decade in modern history. Last year, according to the Met Office, was the 4th hottest year on record, and it expects this year to be the 2nd hottest. Another report from NASA says a hotter climate is having a negative impact in many parts of the world. Oh Soo-young has more.
The planet could be heading towards the warmest decade on record. According to scientists at the UK's Met Office, if temperatures continue to rise according to the forecast for the next 5 years, the decade stretching from 2014 to 2023 will be the hottest in more than 150 years. In fact, figures show that 2018 was the 4th hottest year on record, and that the level of warming over the past 4 years is said to have been exceptional, both on land and in the ocean. The Met Office says 2019 is set to become the 2nd warmest year on record, predicting a 1.1 degrees Celsius rise above the average for the late 20th century. And from now until at least 2023, average global temperatures are forecast to remain above that level. With the possibility of a natural El Niño event raising temperatures further, there's even a risk of annual average global temperature hitting 1.57 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. This would undermine the Paris Climate Agreement reached in 2015, which aims to limit the temperature increase to a 1.5 degree threshold. In a separate report by NASA, scientists underscored concerns regarding the warming of the planet. NASA's report says the impact of global warming can already be seen in coastal flooding, heat waves, intense rain, and changes in the ecosystem, all of which have had damaging repercussions for many societies. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
South Korean boy band BTS have had an amazing run the past couple of years, and this coming Sunday, another highlight for them. They'll be presenting an award at the Grammys in Los Angeles. That's according to their agency, Big Hit Entertainment. The award ceremony will be aired live from 8 p.m. U.S. Eastern Standard Time. The Grammys honor the year's greatest achievements in the U.S. music industry, and this will be the first time for Korean artists to take the stage. It's not been confirmed which award BTS will be presenting on the day, but the designers who did the artwork for their album, Love Yourself Tear, have been nominated for Best Recording Package. It was designed by the Korean art company Husky Fox. I'm Devin Whiting, and those are your news headlines.
Amid many of the issues addressed in the State of the Union speech on Tuesday, President Donald Trump announced the dates of his next meeting with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. We still await confirmation on which city in Vietnam the meeting will take place in, but deep negotiations on what will be agreed at the summit are currently taking place between the two sides in Pyongyang. We'll try to look at that in more detail with our expert in the studio. But first, Yoon Jung-min has this report.
In his State of Union address Tuesday night local time, President Trump said the second North Korea-U.S. summit will be held as widely expected in Vietnam at the end of this month.
Much work remains to be done, but my relationship with Kim Jong-un is a good one. Chairman Kim and I will meet again on February 27th and 28th in Vietnam.
Trump will be meeting Chairman Kim for the second time. Their first summit was last June in Singapore, but for several months now, progress on denuclearization seems to have stalled. In his speech, Trump said he would continue working for peace on the Korean Peninsula and touted his accomplishments in America's relationship with the North.
As part of a bold new diplomacy, we continue our historic push for peace on the Korean Peninsula. Our hostages have come home. Nuclear testing has stopped, and there has not been a missile launch in more than 15 months. If I had not been elected President of the United States, we would right now, in my opinion, be in a major war with North Korea.
Though he didn't name a specific city or venue for the next summit, many observers think it'll be either Hanoi or Da Nang. The announcement came as talks were underway in Pyongyang on Wednesday, Korea time, between high-level officials from the U.S. and North Korea to fine-tune the summit agenda. After Trump's speech, South Korea's presidential office of Cheongwade welcomed the announcement of the dates and said it hopes an improving U.S. relationship with Vietnam will help create a new path for the U.S. and North Korea as well. Trump said he will also meet Chinese President Xi Jinping around the end of February to discuss broader issues including denuclearization and peace on the Korean Peninsula and U.S.-China trade. As for America domestically, in his speech, Trump praised his administration's stewardship of the economy. He called for stronger border security, including a wall to stop drugs and illegal immigration, and he appealed for unity in a divided Congress. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
For more, we have with us today Professor Kim Hyun-duk from the Korea National Diplomatic Academy. It's good to have you back on the show.
Thank you very much.
So Trump has confirmed the dates of the second summit with Kim Jong-un, and that's going to be 27th and the 28th of February in Vietnam, although the city hasn't yet been confirmed. Let's start with the fact that he announced this confirmation of the dates during the State of the Union address. So what do you make of the fact that he chose this occasion to make this announcement, and what do you make of the State of the Union overall?
Well, I think, you know, anyhow he came up with a State of the Union address because of the shutdown issues and tug of war with Democrats. You know, he almost, you know, had no chance to have, you know, speech about the, you know, about the State of the Union address. But anyway, I think some of the important points about the speech was that he emphasized economic situations and also, you know, some of the foreign policy issues and also shutdown issues. He made it sure that he will build a wall in the borderline. He made it, you know, very assuredly. And also one thing that was really interesting and funny was that he was talking about all the good economic achievement he has made. And one thing he mentioned was that one thing that damages the economic conditions of the United States is a ridiculous partisan investigation. That's very political. And, you know, in foreign policy issues, he focused much about the China, trade war with China, trade issue with China. And also he made it clear that the U.S. will be withdrawing out from the INF treaty, Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, which has been, you know, struck between two leaders of the former Soviet Union and the United States in the year 1987. I think the major purpose is to have a free leeway to pressure hard on China more. And yeah, this is a very important chance and opportunity for him to brag about his achievements, and especially, I think it's a good, you know, time for him to talk about the North Korea issues. He talked a lot about achievement that he have made with North Korea. You know, no test or no nuclear test, no war, because he has been talking and negotiating with North Korea. And he made it clear that the summit meeting will be held in Vietnam on February 27th and 8th. I think this is a very good, you know, news-making opportunity for him, I think.
Let's go over the fact that he obviously didn't say where it's going to be exactly yet, and there's much speculation whether it's going to be Hanoi and Da Nang. Those are the two most likely venues. But let's just go over the fact that why Vietnam this time? Last time it was Singapore. And which city do you think it will be, Da Nang or Hanoi?
Vietnam is much closer than Singapore. I think
for North Korea.
Yeah, from the North Korea. Maybe North Korea, Kim Jong-un's you know, aircraft carrier, Chamme, the first. I think you know, possibly can fly to the Vietnam. In case of Singapore, it couldn't, and took the Chinese airplane at the time. Politically, Vietnam is a very important country. It had a war with the United States, but normalized the relationship with the United States. With its socialist regime, economic development has been possible in parallel with socialist political regime, which I think would be a good model for Kim Jong-un and the future of North Korea. So I think it also has a very good relationship with the United States and with North Korea. Maybe from the Kim Jong-un's perspective, I think he will also have a summit meeting, a bilateral summit meeting with Vietnamese leader after he had the summit with President Trump, I think. But about the summit meeting, I think he prefers Hanoi than Da Nang. Hanoi is much closer than Da Nang from North Korea. And also, I think he can, be supported a lot of information and protocol and guard support from the embassy there, North Korean embassy. But we'll see. Da Nang is something, some city that is preferred by the United States. But I think the city itself has been already determined. Maybe they haven't announced it for more political regions or more propaganda effects, or for the guard and protocol for Kim Jong-un. I don't know which reason is the right one, but we'll see how it goes. But I think it has been already determined, not just not has been announced yet.
We'll have to see. Now that the date has been announced, the countdown for this summit now begins. It's less than 3 weeks away, and obviously now the focus turns to the negotiations that are going to take place between the two sides. And actually, they're already well underway, with the U.S. Special Representative for North Korea, Stephen Biegun, who's in Pyongyang for the last 2 days, holding talks with his North Korean counterparts. What are the key issues they're discussing in Pyongyang right now, do you think?
I think they're now making draft agreement. Some of the things that have been agreed already, with some blanks which needs to be agreed between two countries, and narrowing down the gaps and making the blanks smaller and smaller blanks are the homework for the two representatives, I think. The key issue, I think, is the denuclearization of North Korea and the corresponding measures by the United States. North Korea desperately wants the U.S. to lift the sanctions on North Korea, but there should be substantial denuclearization measures by North Korea for the U.S. to lift the sanctions on North Korea. So even though North Korea has promised that it will stop producing nuclear weapons, it will shut down and destroy Yongbyon facilities, I think the U.S. needs to inspect and verify that. That's, I think, the key issues. How much and what kind of level of inspections and verifications are something the U.S. wants, and what level of verification North Korea is willing to accept. And in response to that, what kinds of sanction lifting is something that North Korea wants, and the U.S. willing to give some kind of sanction lifting to North Korea. I think that's the key issue right now. I mean, they're trying to make some corresponding deal and talk and make a detailed adjustment about two different proposals by two countries, I think, in Pyongyang now.
Reports suggest that we might need to temper our expectations towards what comes after the summit. They've suggested that the so-called big deal on denuclearization is not going to happen, and that the two sides will settle for a smaller deal, compromises, step-by-step course. I mean, what the response you've just said in the previous answer, is that the kind of small deal we're going to be looking at, and is that what we should be expecting?
I think it depends upon what kinds of deal is to be struck before the summit meeting, and even on the day of summit meeting, what kind of deal two leaders would come and meet and talk and make. We still don't know which way the deal would be going, but I think it looks very difficult for two countries to make a deal about the denuclearization and the sanction lifting. North Korea is not changing its attitude. After the Kim Jong-un's New Year speech, and afterwards a lot of media in North Korea is saying the same thing, which is that it's now turn of the United States to do something, to lift the sanctions on North Korea. North Korea has done a lot of things already. So the same attitude, same policies towards the United States. The U.S. also keeps the same thing. I mean, unless there is substantial and important, steps and process towards the, denuclearization, FFVD, or possibly CVID, there would be no sanction lifting. So I don't think it's easy. I mean, they're trying to, adjust down the differences. Representative Bigan in Pyongyang is, I think, doing that kind of thing. And Kim Hyuk-chul, the ambassador in North Korea, who's talking with, Mr. Bigan, he is, nuclear expert. He is the, disarmament expert. I think he knows very well about the details about the inspections and the verifications and all the details. So I think he's the right person to talk with Bigan about all the details. So I think, talk will be a little bit different from the past. I mean, Choi-sun, I think she's the one who has been in charge of the United States, but she's not such a, good nuclear expert. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how detailed, talk will be going.
But if I push you for some sort of would you be willing to make any kind of predictions of what kind of deal will be you think we can expect?
It's not easy. It's not an easy prediction. The thing is that let's assume that they come up with a small deal. What will be the response? I think North Korea has been, desperately wanting a sanction lifted by the United States. And if the small deal, and afterwards, what will be the, responses from the United States domestically? A lot of criticism about Trump. What are you doing? Nothing has been done about denuclearizing North Korea. So, two countries, two leaders are under pressure about making a big deal. We'll see how it goes. It doesn't look very easy, but they're under pressure. So I think possibility is still there.
The last summit between Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump in June in Singapore was just a one-day affair. But this time, Trump has confirmed that it's going to be over 2 days. What do you think that tells us about this next summit as well?
I think this time they want to talk more and more than the first meeting. First meeting, the agreement was only about the guidelines. They only met and had a meeting, and Kim Jong-un left quickly. They didn't even have any time to get along with each other. They didn't have dinner together. But I think this time they want to have dinner. They want to be more closer to each other, for the good relationship between two countries. So I think this time it'll be more about the, getting along with some talks for agreement. But at the same time, I think the two leaders will come and talk and more about the narrowing down the gaps. So I think this signifies that the two leaders are under pressure for detailed agreement this time.
And finally, Trump has also said that he'll be meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping at the end of the month as well for trade talks. That suggests that he could be meeting with Xi Jinping perhaps before or after Vietnam, or even in Vietnam as well. I mean, rumors are flying around. Is there a possibility, do you think, of a possible three-way talk between Trump, Xi Jinping and Kim Jong-un, and even a four-way talk with South Korea as well, with President Moon maybe?
We don't know yet, because the working level talk is underway. It has not been determined yet whether the U.S. and North Korea will also talk about and agree about the end of war declaration. But it seems very possible that the dates are pretty much the same, the U.S. North Korea and the U.S. China. So if it is true that they will have declaration of the end of Korean War, I think President Moon Jae-in will definitely go to Vietnam in those dates.
But the chances must be quite low.
Half, I think.
But if South Korean president was to go to, but it seems unlikely. That's such a far step to go for a declaration to end the war.
Well,
it seems very unlikely.
But that, I think, will be included as a small deal between North Korea and the United States. I think from the U.S. perspective, giving allowing a declaration of end of war to Kim Jong-un is much easier than sanction lifting to Kim Jong-un.
That's all. And thank you for coming in today and sharing us your thoughts.
Thank you very much.
And that's all from us, but do stay tuned to Arirang for our latest newscasts for all the latest updates. I'll be back tomorrow with more in-depth discussions on the day's top stories. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.
Zooming into Arirang. In 2018, a wind of peace blew over the Korean peninsula with the Inter-Korean summits. With the new year, what comes next? A Road to Peace invites Koreans and international experts to offer in-depth assessments on the latest developments in Korea and share insight on key political, economic, and social issues. Find out everything you need to know about inter-Korean relations and what we can expect